The owner of Karikia stood frozen, staring at Rezo's artwork in complete shock. He was speechless. Meanwhile, Rezo, who was nearby, looked nervous. "Is my work not good enough?" he asked hesitantly. The owner quickly shook his head. No, it's the opposite," he said excitedly. He explained that a publisher had recently ordered an illustration for a hanging scroll and wanted Rezo to use a special material to create it. Rezo hesitated. "I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm not sure if my drawings are good enough for this." Soji, who had been watching, scoffed. "Are you kidding? Your art looks like it's about to jump off the page. It's almost scary." The owner ignored Soji's comment and smiled at Rezo. "Your work is incredible. The world needs to see it. You have a gift. Your hands are blessed by Buddha himself. Take good care of them." He gently held Rezo's hand. At Yuan's meeting, a merchant admired a painting on a teacup. "This is the work of the artist everyone's been talking about," he said, glancing around. "Is the person who introduced Rezo here?" Yuan, standing nearby, gave a modest smile. "It was just a coincidence," he said. The merchant chuckled. "You're too humble." Later, as Yuan stood watching the garden, Neo approached him and noticed his serious expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I need to go to the entertainment district," Yuan replied. Neo frowned. "You've been going there a lot lately. Is everything okay?" Yuan remained silent, his face unreadable. Meanwhile, Rezo noticed Soji looking unhappy. "I thought you'd be happy for me," Rezo said. Soji crossed his arms. "I don't care." Rezo sighed. "If I get this job, I won't have to bother you anymore." Soji rolled his eyes. "Don't be stupid. A gambler never counts his money until it's in his hands." Before they could continue, a group of rough-looking men appeared, blocking their path. Without warning, the men attacked. Rezo reacted swiftly, blocking their strikes and countering. He and Soji managed to overpower them and demanded to know who had sent them. The men shrugged. "We're just doing our job." Rezo studied their faces and sighed. "I believe them. Let them go." Soji gritted his teeth in frustration. "Then who the hell is behind this?" Rezo didn't answer. He simply smiled, as if the situation didn't bother him at all. Soji sighed. "You're way too calm for your own good." Across town, Jinkuro and Yuan sat in a dimly lit tea house, speaking in hushed voices. "There have been a lot of deaths lately," Jinkuro muttered. "The owner of Azumiya was supposed to arrange a funeral, but now he's dead too." Yuan frowned. "A disease?" "Maybe," Jinkuro replied. Then, after a pause, he added, "Have you heard about the man from Satsuma? The one the Chinese district is after?" Yuan shook his head. "No clue." Jinkuro sighed. "If they find him, I'll be in trouble with my superiors." "Can you look into it?" Yuan nodded. "I'll see what I can find out." In another part of town, Teppa met with a drugstore owner. "It's getting harder to get Dutch goods," the owner complained. "The English have driven them out of Ceylon and Jakarta." Teppa nodded, but changed the subject. "I heard people are looking for a samurai from Satsuma." The moment he said that, the waiters in the shop tensed, realizing too late that he had asked the wrong question. The shopkeeper's expression darkened. "If you want to stay in business, don't ask questions like that." Teppa got the message. "Understood." Without another word, he turned and left, sensing the hostile glares of the staff behind him. Back with Rezo and his group, they sat in a small, candlelit room, discussing the situation. "The Chinese district might be working with Matsumine," Yuan suggested. Soji frowned. "If that's true, they must be desperate. If one of us gets caught, we're all in trouble," Soji added. Rezo, however, seemed unfazed. "I have to deal with this, no matter what happens." Yuan and Soji exchanged worried glances. "Rezo, don't be reckless," Yuan warned. Rezo smiled slightly. "I've already caused enough trouble for everyone. I don't care what happens to me anymore." Soji clicked his tongue. "Idiot." Ignoring them, Rezo headed straight for the Chinese district. People around him whispered in shock. No one could believe he had the guts to go alone. A drugstore owner, watching from a distance, smirked, convinced that Master Lu would take care of him. As tension filled the air, someone ordered the women and children to leave the area. Lu stood confidently, amused by Rezo's arrival. He hadn't expected him to come alone. Without hesitation, he ordered his men to seize him. Reizo remained calm. "Why have you been looking for me?" he demanded. But before he could get an answer, Lu struck first, knocking him down with a powerful blow. As Reizo lay on the ground, Lu accused him of betraying his comrades for greed. But as he looked into Reizo's eyes, he hesitated. Those weren't the eyes of a greedy man. He was about to give Reizo a cruel choice when someone interrupted. "Shishido-sama from the Nagasaki Trade Union is calling." Annoyed, Lu ordered his men to handle Reizo however they pleased. Outside, Lu's men panicked as their boat suddenly started sinking. Beneath the water, Teppa had attacked, crippling the vessel. In a dark room, Reizo sat tied up, surrounded by Lu's men. They demanded answers about stolen goods, but Reizo only admitted to killing Matsumine, denying knowledge of anything else. His captors grew frustrated and began beating him, trying to force him to talk. Suddenly, outside the ship, Soji and Yuen arrived, launching a surprise attack. Yuen used gold paper as a deadly weapon, swiftly cutting down Lu's men. Inside, Reizo, barely conscious from the beating, was about to be drowned when Soji arrived. He attacked the guards, but when he found himself outnumbered, he resorted to a trick, throwing fire pieces at them. In the chaos, he struck from behind, taking them down. He crouched beside Reizo, shaking him awake. Reizo groaned, confused. "Why are you here?" Soji smirked. "Just wanted to watch you suffer." Outside, Yuen silently finished off the remaining enemies. Elsewhere, in a grand estate, Lu had a tense conversation with Shishido from the Nagasaki Trade Union. Lu was furious about the attack on his boat and the loss of his men. Shishido listened carefully before revealing a theory. A group of outlaws, known as the Revengia, is likely behind this. Lu muttered the name under his breath. Revengers. Deep in an underground hideout, Teppa treated Reizo's wounds as the group discussed their next move. They uncovered a shocking truth. Matsumine's stolen cargo was a massive shipment of opium purchased by a high-ranking official from Satsuma, and it was hidden somewhere in Nagasaki.